Welcome to another episode of the A-List Movie Club. I am your host, the game changer, Wes Truth. And of course, as always, I'm being joined by Dominic and John. How's it going tonight, guys?
Good.
Good, good. Finally got some beautiful weather.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
really. And yes, this is the show where, as everyone knows, one of us picks a different movie each week and lets the other ones check it out. We all watch it. So this time it was John's turn to pick a movie. John, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you picked?
I picked one of my all-time favorite movies. It's in my top five. I picked The Crow.
On October 30th, known as Devil's Night in Detroit, musician Eric Draven and his fiancee Shelley are brutally murdered by a gang of thugs. 1 year later, after a crow taps on his grave, Eric rises from the dead and seeks vengeance on the gang members who killed Shelley and himself by any means necessary. So this movie was directed by Alex Proyas, I think is how you say it, who also directed Dark City, I, Robot, and the god-awful Gods of Egypt. And this movie was released on May 13th, 1994. So, John, since this is one of your first movies, why don't you go ahead and start it off?
Um, wow, I love this movie. I saw it for the first time in the drive-in movies back when it came out, whatever that was, 94.
Yeah.
I saw it in the drive-ins. It was on a dusk to dawn. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, which is perfect for as dark as this movie is.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. I've loved it ever since. It's been in my all-time top five. Hasn't left that. I love this movie. I don't know what
Okay.
more I can say. See what you guys have to say.
All right. I'll go.
I don't know if you want to know.
I originally saw the movie when it came out, 1994, and I remember liking it when I saw it, and I rewatched it. And you said, John, this movie is your top five in your top five.
All time, yeah.
Have you seen more than 5 movies? I don't know.
I'm not saying it's one of the 5 greatest ever made. I'm saying it personal top 5.
Okay, that's fine.
I agree. It's not, you know.
I read the comic books that this was based on by Jay Obar, and there's so many differences. You know, the little girl in there, she's not in the comic book. You know, the cop, he's not in the comic book. I don't know what to say, Johnny. I don't think this movie aged very well. It was a struggle for me to get through it, and I remember remember liking it when it came out. Um, I thought um, I thought the acting was terrible. Brandon Lee did a good job, but I thought Ernie Hudson just mailed it in, man. I really did. He looked bored to me. And one thing that just drives me nuts is like this. When he was in T-Bird's car with T-Bird making him, and their cops are chasing him, and it shows the speedometer 90 and 100, and then they show the car going down the road with the cops going behind it, and it looks like they're going 35. You know, I don't know. I don't think this was a tremendously big budget movie, because I think the car chase could have been a lot better. I don't know, man. Didn't age well for me.
I can see that.
You know,
23 million was the budget.
how much?
$23 million.
Well, back then that was a pretty good chunk of change.
That's about what The Rock makes alone.
I know. All right, Chumley.
So yeah, for me, this was my first time ever seeing this movie. Kind of a mixed bag for me. I like the action sequences, the death sequences, and the stunt work, which is mostly shootouts, knife fights, and the car chase that Dominic was talking about. I like the character of Eric when he shows up in the movie. I thought he's crazy and sarcastic, which I liked. I really liked when he leaves his calling card in that one scene after the car explodes. I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought the pawn shop scene was definitely a highlight. Great dark gothic visuals. Somewhat reminded me of Batman '89, like the set design and stuff like that, but grungier. Which, of course, it was '90s, so everything was grunge. And the very '90s soundtrack, definitely. And above all, I was very glad that the cat survived. I have here in my notes for a year on his own. So I felt that the movie deserved a better script overall. I know, like, it's not, Shakespeare here, but I guess I wish the story was a little more exciting because I started to lose interest here and there. I wish there was more time with Eric and Shelley, or like seeing him with his band or things like that, instead of spending so much time with the boring one-note villains. I thought the top dollar and his half sister / girlfriend was like a weird thing. Like in the comic books, I know they said that he was just like another thug, but in the movie, like they promoted him to like the boss, like just so there could be like a final boss type guy for him to fight. But I kind of wish they just sort of played it straightforward. And I thought the acting was bad from the villains. And I'm sure it had to do with, huh?
Fired it up. Fire it up.
I'm sure the flashbacks I said were sort of headache inducing, which I'm sure that had to do with trying to hide the fact they were trying to hide his face. Because like the stunt double was doing some of that work. But I was just sort of like, oh God, this is too much. I don't know. Like, I liked some of it, but sometimes I felt like it was a lot of style over substance for me. Like, this is cool, like, to look at, but there's not a whole lot here.
I agree with what you guys are saying. Like I said, this is a personal favorite. I'm not by any means saying
definitely.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
this isn't The Godfather. This isn't Citizen Kane. I get it. Like,
that's cool.
What hurts this movie is back then this was sort of original. I mean, they've been done before, but since then there's been 10 million of these types of movies.
Right.
Guy out for revenge, kills all the bad guys. It's been done to death. So I think it waters it down a bit. And I hate to say this, I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but if he doesn't die, does this movie do anything? Like, does it do anything in the theaters? Does it do anything on video release?
No. I think the comic book was very popular back then. I think it still would have done pretty well.
From what I had read, it was going to be a direct-to-DVD movie, and then a different studio, Miramax, picked it up to put it in theaters after he died.
Oh.
So, yeah, but I mean, I think, it probably would have been okay. Like, it's much like The Dark Knight. We all question how would that have played out if Heath Ledger lived. Would it have made as much money? Probably.
Well, maybe like some of the stuff he said about fleshing out the characters, maybe they couldn't. Maybe he died, and like, oh, we just got to go with what we have, you know?
Yeah, maybe that's why they had to put so much emphasis on the villains. Because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you probably I didn't read the comic, really. But I read that. You probably know Dom. They don't go over the rules a whole lot. Like one of his rules, once he's resurrected, is that he can only get revenge on those who killed him.
Oh,
he can't just be like a random killer, every bad guy in the world kind of. He's just brought back to get the 4 guys who killed him and his girlfriend. And if he doesn't return or veers off of that, is when he loses his powers.
Yeah.
So like the end there, they kidnap that girl and he goes after the main villain. That's why he doesn't really have a lot of powers because he's. But they don't talk about any of that.
That makes more sense. No, yeah, I was like, what the hell is going on?
I only recognized like 3 people. Obviously, Brandon Lee, and then I knew Tony Todd.
Yeah.
Candyman.
And Ernie Hudson.
Original Candyman.
Yeah.
Ernie Hudson, I knew. And then I knew the guy from The Warriors, so 4 guys.
Yeah.
What's his name? T-Bird. The guy in the car. He was in The Warriors.
Yep.
Have you ever seen that movie, Wes?
No.
Oh, that's a good. I've seen it. It's good.
That was a very good movie.
Yes. So, Dom, you asked before about what scene it was. I did a lot of research, and the scene where he was killed was not in the movie.
Oh.
They cut it.
That makes sense.
As she was getting raped and killed, he comes home in the middle of it, carrying a bag of groceries. And not T-Bird, the other guy. I don't forget all these bad guys' names. They're so generic.
Funny Boy or something like that.
Shoots him. Fun Boy.
Yeah.
He turns and shoots him. But of course, in real life, you know, they said he fired. They had they're real bullets. There's no powder in them. And he fired it, and it didn't fire. So he fired again. So the second bullet launched the first one out, and it went through the bag and into his stomach.
Wow.
And they didn't know anything until he hit the ground and got back up, and they saw he was bleeding.
They now in the comic book, it was kind of interesting because it's not. They had nothing like to do with the rent thing and this and that, the building thing. No, they were driving along. They had car trouble, and these guys pulled up in a car. They shot him in the head, and he was still alive. While they ended up killing her and then raping her after she was dead. You know,
in the comics, he's the one in the coma for 30 hours, not her.
Right.
Mm.
And it was just a straight revenge, the comic books. They didn't veer off into a lot of different things, you know, but it was the comic book was fantastic. In fact, I went to go look for the graphic novel. I was gonna, and man, it's going for a ton of money.
I'm sure. The guy who shot Brandon Lee was named Michael Massey. He stopped acting for over a year. He was so traumatized, and he's never seen this movie.
I bet.
He's since passed away. In 2016, he passed away. He only did small roles in other movies. He just sort of, traumatized him so much. The director originally wanted to shoot it in black and white so that it would resemble the comic. And
right.
No one's going to go see a black and white movie in 1994. So instead, he did it, how we would call it, monochromatic. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Very gray. It's not very bright colored. It's very dreary, dark.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Lee did not like the way they painted his face. So he and the director talked, and he would put the makeup on and go home and sleep in it. So when he woke up, it looked worn in and looked like natural part of his face, not like his face was painted.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this movie was troubled. When he's in the pawn shop and he smashes the glass with his hand, he cut his hand, much like Leo in that. What was that movie he did? That in
Yeah.
Django. Yeah. James O'Barr, who wrote the comic, did not agree with Brandon Lee. He thought it would turn into like his dad's, like a badly dubbed kung fu movie.
Right.
And then after he saw some footage, he was like, you know what, this might work. Here's the scariest bit of trivia. The studio wanted to make it a musical starring Michael Jackson as the Crow.
Oh my God.
You think this version sucked? Holy shit.
You want to talk about the ultimate studio interference?
Oh my God. James O'Barr stated on the Crow DVD that when he met the movie's executives, they originally wanted to make this a musical starring Michael Jackson. He laughed uncontrollably, thinking it was a joke, only to find out they were serious. Can you imagine? Oh, I'd rather not.
It would be definitely a different movie.
Well, they made a mask out of a mold of his face to put on the stunt doubles, and people in the crew thought it was kind of disturbing and creepy after he died to see all these people walk around with his face on. So they took that away.
What did they make the mold? They must have made it before he died for the stunt doubles. But
Yeah.
what they do when he died, and they do a death mask, or
No, they probably did it while he was alive for the the action scenes or whatever.
Right.
And then I'm still hold on, Michael Jackson still. Your car chase scene was made with miniatures because they didn't have the budget to film it. That's probably why it looks like shit.
Okay.
First day of shooting, a carpenter got burns. On a different day, a grip truck caught fire. A sculptor was fired and crashed his car through one of the sets. A crew member drove a screwdriver through his hand. Like this set was plagued. It's cursed or something.
Yeah, it sounds like it's cursed.
There was rampant cocaine abuse while filming. The cameraman shot it while high. The crew were all high.
Oh my God.
At one point, someone sneezed and Brandon Lee turned and said, someone just lost $50. The script didn't call for that guy to shoot Brandon Lee's character. The director changed it the last minute. And then, of course, he accidentally gets shot and killed.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
James O'Barr used the profits from this film. He bought his mom a car and he bought him stereo for himself and donated the rest to charity. He said, I was good friends with Brandon and it felt like blood money. I didn't want to keep it. I didn't want to profit off his death. Yeah. The bird in the film is actually a raven, not a crow. Ravens are bigger and look better on camera than crows are kind of small birds.
Yeah, that's true.
River Phoenix and Christian Slater auditioned for the role that Brandon Lee got. Which is better than Michael Jackson, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of reminded me of Keanu Reeves at sometimes. Like a role he would have played. Yeah.
James O'Barr, who wrote the comic, pushed hard for Johnny Depp.
Oh. That I could see too.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee's mom sued the studio and settled out of court for $3 million. Hold on. Yeah. So you guys could you tell which scenes were shot after he died?
I
I could pick him out.
I thought like the ones where like they didn't really show him that much. Like they showed his back and stuff like that. Like it was like his profile, but not like a close up of him and stuff.
Yeah. And the rooftop scenes where he's running across the rooftops. Could you never
Yeah.
see him? It's like shot from a distance. You just see like that kind of stuff. The scene where when he first rises out of the grave and goes to his old apartment, none of that is him. This is why you sort of don't see his
Yeah,
face.
that's the flashback. Yeah. Mhm.
When that girl goes into the apartment, what's her name? Sarah, and goes looking for him. Remember, she's like, "Screw you! I thought you cared."
right.
None of that's him either. This is why you don't really see him. And he's like, you just see his shadows. He's standing in the window.
Right.
Right.
None of that's actually Brandon. Yeah. And that girl, by the way, is from Philadelphia. Girl that played
Oh
Sarah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The quote Ebert says is from the book Paradise Lost. I don't know if anybody knows that book. Cody says about the devil appeared and he saw how awful goodness was.
Okay.
Cameron Diaz was offered the role of his girlfriend. She turned it down because she didn't like the script. Well, she was only in for like 5 minutes, really. Not really.
Right.
You barely see her.
True. Was Cameron Diaz even that popular? Like she was probably in The Mask, and then that was probably it at that point.
It was something about Mary. Was that in the 90s?
That was like 98, I think that came out. 97, 98.
Yeah. Might have been one of her early roles, yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys, there's a. Did you see the second part, Dom?
No.
Oh. I saw it in theaters the day it came out. Me and 4 other people.
Yeah.
Literally, on the day it came out, there was like 5 people in the theater. I had the second, third, and fourth part. Yep. They don't get better.
I did. Yeah, they're not exactly great.
The second one has Sarah, all grown up, different actress, and what is her name? The step sister girlfriend that the crow picked out her eyes.
Yeah.
She's in the second one. That's like the only loose connection it has.
Wow, that's weird.
And then they had a TV show based off this.
Wow.
Yeah, The Crow, Stairway to Heaven. I didn't watch it.
Interesting.
So what do you guys think?
All right, Johnny, you give the rating first.
Well, you know my rating's going to be. Well, if I go with my heart, it's a 10, just for what it means to me. If I look at it as a film, you know, like you guys said, like, okay, as a movie, yeah, it's not that great. But sort of like this is my Die Hard. Like you have Die Hard is always going to mean something to you.
Right.
My Die Hard. As a film, it's probably 7, if I'm being generous. But to me, it's a 10. So whatever you want to do.
Well, whatever, how you want to rate it, you know.
Okay. I'll go next.
All right.
I'm sorry, Johnny. I give it a 5.
All right. I understand.
Yeah, and 5 for me too. Because I liked like half of the stuff, but the other half I was like, oh man. I wish like they had given Brandon Lee a better movie of villains and stuff like that, I guess. Because I thought he was great, and I wish I could have seen him in other stuff, you know, after that. But
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. I get it. I ain't mad at you guys. Who picks next?
Me, So it's funny that actually this movie was brought up during our review because I'm going to pick a movie I'm sure we've all seen, but it's a great movie regardless, and that is Django Unchained.
Awesome.
Nice. Good choice.
The first Tarantino movie, surprisingly, because I know all three of us love him.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we'll be back next week with our thoughts on Django Unchained. But until then, John, you want to talk a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, I have a weekly podcast called We Like Wrestling Podcast. So 4 guys sitting around talking about wrestling, classic pay-per-views, current stuff. It's on Spotify, Apple iTunes, wherever you find podcasts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We Like Wrestling Podcast.
All right. And of course, for me, you can subscribe right here on YouTube, youtube.com/westside515. Got a lot of new reviews going up. I just put up Nomadland a little bit ago, and the Snyder Cut, of course, is on there of what I thought of that. So definitely subscribe. You can like the show on Facebook, facebook.com/WestTrueBaylist. And you can follow me on the Twitter and Instagram @WesAlist. Until next time, truth out.